Guys, welcome to Three Mormons. We've got our friend George on the show, and George is an atheist.
Hello. After talking to Greg Trimble about atheist principles and ideology, we wanted to talk to an actual atheist so that we could get ideas straight from the font. So we're really glad you're here.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be here. Yeah.
So, what is atheism and what isn't atheism?
So atheism is simply a lack of belief in God or a God. It's nothing more, nothing less. It's just simply a lack of belief. And atheism is not a religion. It's not an ideology. It's not a set of values or principles, and it's also not like a monolithic organization. So when you think of atheists, they don't move in lockstep with each other. They don't share the same beliefs or interests. Atheism is simply a lack of belief in God.
Yeah.
So, what is your take on God?
Like, what is it exactly that you have a lack of belief in?
That's an excellent question. So a lot of people, they say, well, you don't believe in God. And my next question is, well, what God are you referring to? Because there are literally thousands of different gods. Mm-hmm. And so if you ask me, well, do you believe in Vishnu? I say, no, I don't. And if you ask a Catholic, do you believe in Vishnu? I'm guessing there's a pretty good chance they will say no. So while atheism seems like a very foreign and unrelatable position to take, really, everybody can relate to an atheist in that way.
You just believe in one less God than we do, right?
Exactly. That's exactly right. So a Catholic is atheist or would take an atheistic position on the existence of Vishnu. And a Mormon would take an atheistic position on the existence of the Catholic God, and a Catholic would take an atheistic position on the existence of the Mormon God.
I think lots of times that's where lots of conflict happens, where relationships cannot be built because of a different doctrine or a different ideology or a different principle or a different vision of a God. Something that you brought up that's really interesting. I think when we say, Mormons would say they wouldn't believe in the Catholic God, maybe it would be the Catholic doctrine. Because I think one thing that we probably should clear up more nowadays is that there is a general good among all people, and I believe that comes from a singular God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it's interesting. I mean, I think you could say Mormons don't believe in the Catholic God, and still it's an intellectually honest statement. Yeah. But I also think we don't believe in the
confines of that.
Yeah, it's more like the confines of the Catholic God or the interpretation of the Catholic God, but we still believe in the God. It's like if I would hold up a light bulb and you would say, well, it didn't come from that company, it came from this company. We both agree that this is a light bulb, but we're arguing on like which company it came from, or like which circuits. So that's kind of how I view it. But I think you could say both. I think both are definitely fair statements.
Yeah. Now, obviously, if you're looking at Hindu gods versus Christian gods, you're going to see large differences.
Oh, yeah.
Extreme differences in their characteristics. So when you're speaking of the Christian God, the Mormon interpretation of the attributes of that God are going to be very different from the Catholic interpretation. Mormons believe very heavily in a physical, literal God of skin and bones, whereas the Catholics, it's less so. It's more the Trinity. There's the definition of God and the Holy Spirit and Jesus and how they interrelate. Whereas in Mormonism, they're three separate beings. And so, as an atheist, basically, I take the position of I see no compelling evidence for the existence of that Catholic God. The way Catholics describe their God, the attributes that they assign to him, I don't see any reason to believe in that God. And same with the Mormon God or the Hindu gods, etc. It's really, that's all it boils down to. And with atheists, you can't really make any assumptions about an atheist given that they don't believe in God. For instance, in terms of religion, we're very comfortable with, if you're Mormon, then you probably believe these following things, and you value these following things. Whereas if you're Catholic or Baptist, you believe this list of things. When it comes to atheism, many people assume things about atheists.
There's a checklist.
There's a checklist of like,
Right.
oh, if you're atheist, then you're X, Y, and Z. But really, it boils down to all you can say about an atheist is they don't believe in God. And this is the example that I use. I've heard it before, and I like to use, which is if you hear of someone who is not a stamp collector, what do you know about that person? Do you know their political affiliation, their views on abortion or same-sex marriage? You really don't. The only thing you know about them is they don't collect stamps.
Yeah.
And that's how it is with atheism. All you know about them is they don't believe in God.
It's like empty boxes instead of checked boxes. Like
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, obviously, many atheists have political affiliations and views on those things, but they differ wildly.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and there's no monolithic structure or organization for atheists.
No, yeah, definitely, yeah.
I think that kind of brings up the next topic, which is how would you define evidence of a God? When you say my belief or a lack of belief is because I don't see much evidence, I'd love to hear
Yeah.
what your definition would be.
Sure.
And that's even with religious people. You have a Protestant guy say there is no evidence of the Book of Mormon, right?
Right, yeah.
But then you have someone who goes, there is no evidence
Of the Trinity,
of
or-
the Trinity, or of a talking snake, or people walking on water. It's like groups saying, "You can't prove your crud. Listen to my crud." And they use the word crud very endearingly, but that kind of thing.
Yeah.
For me, I was raised Mormon. I was Mormon my whole life. I had the priesthood. I served a mission. I went to BYU, temple marriage, etc. And this is not a slam against Mormonism by any means. But one of the things that
Trust
Mormonism
me, we get slammed all the time.
Yeah, it's
so
okay. Yeah.
This might be lightweight, so it's all good.
one of the things that Mormonism does extremely well is disprove other religions. Growing up Mormon, I became very skilled and adept at picking out the flaws, the contradictions, and the inconsistencies in other religions. And it all came back to, but my religion is right. My religion is true, mine being the Mormon church. And so when I could no longer believe in the Mormon definition of God, it was a very short step to abandoning all religion, because I had already disproven all of those religions previously. So when you ask, what would I take as evidence for
What would it take in order to believe in a God?
to believe in a God? Yeah. So a lot of people will cite our existence, the miraculous nature of the fact that this earth exists, and there are creatures on it, there's life on it, and there are sentient beings on this earth, and that how could that have come from nothing? How could that have? There must have been a creator who created all this, right? Okay, so let's say, for argument's sake, there is a creator, and that there was some being that put into motion or caused all of our existence to exist. Mm-hmm. Assuming there is a creator and we look around at the complexities of life, what do we know about that creator?
Can I respond?
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's say someone says there's a creator because of creations. Mm-hmm. One of my responses would be when an infant turns into a toddler or turns into a small child, there is generally many benign elements of that child. Like, there's no racism in a small child. There are no...
Oh, I met this kid in kindergarten. Total Nazi.
I'm gonna go for a 2-year-old then, okay? I'm gonna bring it back. No, but a small child, hatred, even loyalty or happiness or love, you find lots of these elements in small children.
Okay.
And then as you grow older and society takes hold on your life and you learn of more, rigid topics, let's say, and you learn more of sadness and you learn more of happiness, you can kind of create more of a character, per se. But the natural element of a human, I see lots of love. And if this love is just constant, there is no beginning or end to this love, then this God maybe has an attribute of all loving, that all things he is trying to be a steward over on this earth.
So the natural response to that would be, then what can we derive about the existence of God given all of the hate that exists in the world?
If there's a creator with love, there's an opposition. So there's a creator of evil as well.
Well, yeah, and all I'm saying is, when it comes to religion, for every example of love and understanding that can be cited, you can also cite examples of hate and violence in the name of religion. So, really, it's, yeah, I mean, I understand your point.
Let's say, you're my boss. I'm a really big fan of you, right? And
which we are, regardless of your employment.
You've left a stack of papers with some instructions on them, and I'm interpreting them in a different way, and I'm going to go do something, and I'm going to throw coffee at Sharon in HR, right? And then Ian is reading your papers, and he's not doing that. Now, you're still there. You're still a person.
I'm just a terrible boss.
I want to know.
I'm terrible at writing instructions.
You went on.
I'm awful.
Maybe.
I'm incredibly inconsistent.
I mean, that may be a different discussion, but but we have definitely interpreted what you've said in a different way.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that you wanted coffee thrown at Sharon.
I'm just extremely incompetent.
Or I'm incompetent because
he had a rough day.
he read those instructions and he was like, yeah, I'll get to just change the air conditioner, right?
Yeah.
So you're still there, but the way we're interpreting, so I don't think it makes you a bad person. I think it makes the person doing it. It's the same with politicians. You've got some people who do cruddy things in the Democratic Party, cruddy things in the Republican Party. It doesn't mean that the Democratic Party itself, the DNC is
politics
evil,
in general,
or the GOP is evil.
Yeah. Well, the difference with that, I mean, is I don't know of any political parties that claim to be the one true party.
Is this 2017?
I think. Well, I would say the party thinks that we do it better than anyone else. We're the right.
I actually do see that.
Yeah. That's political.
Never.
That just. I'm trying to avoid politics.
No.
Yeah,
Definitely.
It's a horrible subject right now.
What it comes down to is an element of faith.
Now we're getting to it.
Yeah.
Now we're getting to it.
This is where the discrepancy is.
Yep.
The discrepancy is one man talking, saying, I don't have faith in Jesus Christ, and the other one is saying, I have faith in Jesus Christ. Therefore, the logical arguments will be extremely different because of personal experiences and because of logic that they subscribe to.
So, as a believer, in like I say, over 30 years of being raised Mormon, I had been taught, and I had taught others, if you want to know the truth of something, you pray, you seek earnestly, and God will, as it says in the Book of Mormon, manifest itself. You'll feel the burning of the bosom. And I had taken that very seriously, and I had experienced that, and I felt that was a confirmation that what I was reading or learning was true. Right. But then I started thinking about it, and I realized the circularity of that reasoning. And the circularity is that this person tells me to do this, and I will receive this experience, and then I will know that this person is saying what is true. So I knew I needed to introduce something else into the loop so that it was no longer a loop. So I thought, right now, I am interpreting this burning in the bosom to mean this book is true. This leader is speaking for God. And I thought, what good is a belief if it can't be falsified? If you can't falsify something, then how do you know that it's true?
I feel like you're talking about the scientific theory.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. Like if you have a theory and there's no way to falsify it. So for instance, I have a theory that there is an invisible teacup circling the earth. I can't falsify that because I can't prove that that's not true. I didn't come up with that. Just
I know.
That's somebody else.
Definitely, yeah. Okay. I'm happy you said that. When these one guy's going, actually,
he can't take credit for that. I've heard that before.
No, but
getting back to my point of spiritual experiences, I thought at these spiritual experiences that I've had, I've come at them from only one angle. If I really want to verify that they're true or that they mean what I've always been taught they mean, I need to come at them from other angles and really work to verify that this is actually
philosophical scholarship, that kind of thing. Yeah.
So I thought to myself, would it be possible to experience those feelings in some other way? And so I tested it. And this is kind of personal, but I took a book that I'd heard was a really good book, and it dealt with spiritual matters, but I'd never read before. Les Mis. I took the book, Les Mis. So I went to a park. Beautiful day, and I was all alone. I had solitude, and I began reading the book, Les Mis.
Had the feelings.
And I absolutely had that experience, that spiritual experience, And I knew, by coming at it from another angle, I knew, first of all, Les Mis is not a true book. It is not an actual account. So by feeling those feelings, what does that mean? Does that mean that the book I'm reading is true? No, it can't mean that, because I've just proven that it doesn't. So then I turned it back onto where I'd experienced it before. If I feel those feelings while I'm reading the Book of Mormon, does that mean the Book of Mormon is a literal account?
Reading Les Mis, for example, couldn't that mean that the values of the book that it's presenting to you, values of repentance, forgiveness, and helping people become penitent?
Absolutely. But that's not what I've been taught. What I had been taught is that those feelings are a manifestation of the truthfulness. And so by taking Moroni's challenge, you pray about the Book of Mormon, and if you feel those feelings, then you know that the Book of Mormon is a true, literal, historical account.
Here's what I would say to that. I would say, one, you're taking the world of our doctrine, and we're separating one thing. We say the Book of Mormon is a keystone of our religion, but there are other parts of it. There are other parts of Mormonism in general.
So the end of that story is that after having that experience, I then realized the fallibility of using those feelings as a method for determining truth. So then I went looking to see if people in other religions also claimed to have those same experiences, and I found thousands of examples.
I don't think Mormons have the seal of saying this is our way of determining truth. I think this way of determining truth, like you said, is across all religions.
Absolutely.
I don't think Mormons are allowed to say that, well, we're the only ones that are allowed to say it this way. This is the only way we do it. And so I think gaining a testimony of the Book of Mormon, that is a testimony to understand if the doctrines within the Book of Mormon are true, which then can open up a plethora of different avenues you can take. Yeah. You could take an avenue, you could say, I read the Book of Mormon, now I'm going to find out if Jesus Christ is the Redeemer, and I'm going to find out, and you didn't, and you didn't. Understanding that the Book of Mormon is true is not meaning that everything is true, but it means that these values in the book have value, just like Les Mis.
You got to go line upon line, precept upon precept.
And so the way that I gained a testimony was, I read the Book of Mormon when I was 13, and I was like, wow, I feel great reading this. I feel like I want to apply these principles. Joseph Smith, I've heard so many things about him. I want to study his life. I want to read people who spoke about him in the day. I want to read about his friends. I want to read about his enemies. I want to read about his family, and I want to see exactly what Joseph Smith was like.
Yeah, you're saying if I feel a burning in the bosom, that means all of Mormonism is true.
No.
But that's not Moroni's promise. And so you say, well, where did the book come from? Let me learn about that. And you can take scholarly angles, check out the Maxwell Institute. You can take many different approaches. But if we take the latter, in which Mormonism generally proclaims, and we twist the latter and we make it something else, then we're not going to get the result that was told of us, because we're removing a very important part of it. I mean, with the spiritual confirmations I had, they weren't all just burning of bosoms. Right. You know what I mean? It's a lot more than just like you feel.
An opening of mind.
This is good.
An enlightenment or a...
You know, much more than that. Of course, we probably won't agree because you're an atheist and I'm a Mormon. But how can we have better relations between the two groups?
When it comes to building bridges or what have you between atheists and Mormon, or atheists and religious people in general, I mean, I think it comes down to an examination of values. I think we have more in common than you would realize at first glance. So when we talk about values, I'm talking about values such as like honesty and integrity and goodwill, valuing life, respect for people. I think these are things that we can all agree on. Right. And I mean, I don't want to get too much into this, but I have very, very close family members who have varying degrees of belief in Mormonism. And I have a very good relationship with these people. And really, it comes down to the fact that even though we don't share the same beliefs, we do share the same values.
You can sit down, you can have a burger, you can open Christmas presents
absolutely.
together.
Share the same species.
Absolutely. We're all part of humanity. We're all humans, and we all share the same human condition, regardless of what we believe about that human condition. We're all in it together. Quite honestly, when it comes to my associates, be it family, friends, work, etc., I am in the minority. So, I mean, I'm only...
Me too.
Yeah, you too.
I think something valuable that we can do is stop taking ownership over general things like service. We need to stop saying things like, well, if you're a true disciple of Jesus Christ, then you are a servant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you can be a servant without believing in Jesus Christ. I think you can be an honest man that doesn't cheat on his test if you don't believe in Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
Because you want to succeed in life.
And you want to play by the rules.
Yeah.
Like you want a better society. You want to build a society where people get along and create equity and fairness.
Do you think that the dialogue, because even in our last episode, the comment section just so vitriolic, so much anger toward people we've never met, you know? Yeah. So how do we make that not a thing? How can a Christian go to a Sam Harris video and say, you know, I don't agree with him, but I appreciate, you know, his intelligence, his approach, and how can an atheist come to our video and say, I don't believe what they're saying, but I can appreciate what they're doing for people, or that kind of thing, you know? Like, how do we do that?
I think we need to just respect conviction. I think when it comes to personal experience...
That's a beautiful, yeah, I think it's beautiful.
When it comes to personal experience, like, I don't know what it was like to fall away from the church. You do. You know exactly what it was like. I think if you came back per se, you would have a better way of explaining it, right?
Yeah.
I have no good way of explaining it. But you have a conviction of being an atheist. I have a conviction of being a Mormon, but we still do good things through our convictions.
Yeah.
Having a respect for those convictions, I think, is the bottom line.
Absolutely, yeah.
You and I here are the only ones who haven't been Mormon our whole life.
Yeah,
You know,
that's a good point.
So I was not Mormon for a time period, so I know what that was like, and I know it's like being Mormon.
Yeah.
You know, it's like being Mormon and not being LDS.
That's a really good point. And I think when it comes to like how to approach people of differing beliefs, I think it just goes back to I think we just need to acknowledge and recognize that we have more in common than we realize.
Yeah.
And you know, this process of leaving Mormonism, to give you a timeline, it was about 5 years ago is when I lost all belief. And so the last 5 years, you know, I've gone through various stages, but where I'm at kind of right now is I've learned a few things, and basically it goes back to not everybody is going to believe the same things.
Right.
And that's okay.
Even within the church. That's what our whole show is about.
Even within this church.
Yeah.
Not everybody is going to believe the same things, and that's okay. I think this drive for oneness and conformity and sameness is misguided. I think that by bringing people together that do have differing beliefs but share common values can only enrich the human experience. And I've heard that all my life, like, oh, celebrate diversity. And I feel like I never really understood it until just recently.
I don't think God intends every single person to become a Mormon on this earth.
Yeah, we don't have the same haircut, which is horrible.
Yeah. So my whole spiel is that we can have different even lifestyles.
Yes, absolutely.
Different lifestyles and be one.
And for this episode, we asked, you know, for some atheists to come on the show, and the way was polite. It was, I think this, let's come together, let's have a good time. And I think if we just use that approach with everything, then one, we get smarter.
Yeah.
If we're not just tearing each other down and listening, we become not dumb people.
Totally.
So that's the best way to do it. But also, it's important to have this kind of conversations.
I'm going to take a lot of things you said about approaching truth and making sure that it can be examined from different angles, and take that home and talk to my wife about it and make sure that I apply those things because I respect you.
Thank you.
I think that's important.
I just have one final thought. So as I mentioned, over the last 5 years, I've gone through various stages. And one of my initial stages was, I no longer believe in God. It's now my mission to deconvert everybody. Like, I was not a pleasant person, and I wanted to share with everybody, and I wanted them all to become atheists with me, right? And over time, I've given that up. And what I've moved to, and it's basically what I've just been saying, is that I think the human experience can be richer without everybody having the exact same beliefs. And actually, to be honest, I was a little hesitant to come on your show because I saw the value in presenting, you know, what is an atheist not. But I don't have any desire or goal to deconvert anybody. And so I was kind of struggling. I was like, how do I present my position, but also not tear down the faith of anyone else? And so hopefully that's come out or not come out.
No, I think
this
so.
video is that I you know, like I say, there's definitely my past self was very argumentative and confrontational, and you know, I'm going to state my position, which is struggled with the other internal part of me, which is like, I'm not really looking to deconvert anybody. I just want to share my position.
Well, George, thanks so much for coming on our show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, if you want to Keep watching our videos. Just click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell for when we upload, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Yeah, thanks, guys.
So when you, or maybe it was you're like, Sunstone, like real super like Sunstone, and then somebody else reacted, they're like, oh, Sunstone. So I didn't actually go to Sunstone this year. I've been before. So the theme was more than one way to Mormon. I think that's so great. Like, I think that the more the church kind of...
More to more. Oh gosh, I can't say that. Hashtag more to more. No, I'm just kidding.